true self means, sounds like, and looks like. I'm your host, Carlin E. Tapia, coach, speaker, educator, and certified practitioner. I'll put more info of my work and what I do in the show notes. Feel free to contact us. My team would love to schedule a guest on my podcast. I have exciting plans for this, and I am ready to serve you. This podcast is designed to help you break free from fear or toxic stress and grow into the most confident, empowered version of yourself. If you're feeling stuck, uncertain, or overwhelmed, you've come to the right place. Elizabeth, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast and being a special guest here.
Thank you.
Of course, absolutely. I just want to start with a little bit of background information. Like, where did you grow up?
Where did I grow up? So I grew up in Southern California, born and raised, was there up until about a few years ago. My family and I are currently up here in the Pacific Northwest. So definitely still a newbie, I would consider myself to this area. But yeah, that's where I grew up.
That's awesome. So, I wanted to interview you because I know you are in the coaching space
Yeah.
and you help people, and correct me if I'm wrong, write books.
Yep.
Tell me more because I for sure want to write a book someday. And I just want the audience to know specifically what got you to being that type of coach.
Yeah, it was definitely not, I would not even say plan A, plan B, or plan C, which usually life tends to be that way, right? You end up looking back and you're just like, wow, this was not at all a part of the plan. But I'm very grateful for I don't know, maybe detours, if you want to call it that, or the pivot. So, a number of years ago, I found myself as a new mom. And just like any new parent, you are looking for all of the answers, all of the resources, right? You're just like a newbie and fish out of water and just trying to learn how to be a mom. And so, a really big thing for my husband and I was wanting to instill faith into our children. And in our case, we both grew up in I would say bilingual homes, but primarily Spanish speaking. And where there was this integration of faith and bilingualism. It was just synonymous. It, like, we didn't even think about it. We just thought that it was like very normal. But fast forward to years later when we were also becoming parents and recognizing, OMG, our parents did a lot of work to make that happen. Where now the current dynamic for our children, while for us when we were growing up, the only space or place that we spoke English was school. And versus for my kids today, the only place where they are quote unquote exposed to two languages is at home. And that's it, aside from we attend the Spanish ministry at our church. But yeah, just beginning there. And I remember there was one particular day, I call it my complaint prayer, which I feel like most people can relate to that. You don't really recognize or realize in the moment that you're just giving your complaint. Like, you're just like, I'm mad about this. Why can't I find that? And where are these resources and these authors and I can even still remember that same sense when I genuinely sense in my spirit that God was almost like pointing the finger back at me, like, you do it, you do it. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? I would love to say that I was so humble and just, yes, I'll do anything. No, I gave my laundry list of reasons as to why I was the wrong girl and why it was the wrong season. But I genuinely sensed like a second time where it was God's spirit was like, you have my word, you have my spirit, you have everything you need. Now go. And that's where the journey began. Started literally from zero. It was not, like I said, plan A, plan B, or plan C, but building and building along the way. I'm really proud that we were able to write and publish family-based devotionals. And then this year we were able to publish an all illustrated Spanish-based book. And it really very organically began in building and working with other authors, a lot of them leaders in their own right, whatever industry they're a part of, whether they're in coaching or nonprofit or they're some sort of a community leader, right? But your average leader is already communicating a message. They're already communicating a vision. And so they find themselves repeating that same message in a sense, which is a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but the power of a book is that it gives you the ability to duplicate yourself, because let's be honest, we are one person and we don't have the ability to be in every single room. And it also multiplies the impact of the message and the vision that you are trying to get out into the world. So I've had the pleasure of walking alongside of, man, like countless authors at this point. Yeah, it's been a fun ride.
That is powerful. I knew that obviously writing a book is impactful, but you just reminded me of another way to disciple,
Uh-huh.
because we are repeating the same, not the same, it's the same message with different words, and
Right.
we try to make it more just appealing, listening to it in a different way. And so I actually didn't know, I didn't want to assume that you spoke Spanish. So that is great because I do too. And we should just start speaking Spanish like right now.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. That's a very big, I would say, just family value for us. Like, just, I like to remind my kids all the time, because they get into their little moments where they want to fight it or all of that. So it's just the back and forth. And I'm like, well, you know what? Jesus was bilingual. Jesus knows all the languages. So what's your story? Okay. So if Jesus can do it, you can do it too. And they're just like, Mom, very clever. Ha ha ha. But it's just, it's a beautiful thing to be able to utilize every single aspect of who we are, right? And it is a reflection, I think, of the makeup that God created us to be. And so why not? If you have the ability, if you have, it's a beautiful expression of dual cultures, right? So why not? Honestly, why not?
Ya, y en serio, voy a comenzar a hablar en español. Y lo que me impresiona es de que yo con mis estudios, social worker, trabajadora social, y no, o sea, mucha gente que es bilingüe, que esté en esa área. Entonces,
Mhm.
por eso mismo me encanta que eres bilingüe y me gustaría saber más. Yo sé que tenemos una cita agendada para poder hablar más sobre la idea de un libro, pero también me interesa mucho porque todos tenemos una historia y no todos tenemos como la oportunidad, las mismas oportunidades. Y creo que no, muchos no entienden eso, especialmente si no eres inmigrante o si no eres hijo de un inmigrante. Y me encanta que puedes hacer eso con tu business como tu ministerio.
Mhm.
Sí, estoy encantada.
Lo que me gusta mucho recordar, especialmente a los autores que son bilingües, es de que, por ejemplo, aquí tengo una copia del libro, eso es en nuestro libro de este año, sí, se llama Alabaré, Corito de Gozo. Son los que son bilingües. Si no conoces esta canción, I'm sorry, pero no creciste en el evangelio, ¿ok? Es como decir esa canción clave, ¿verdad? A cualquier momento, si no fue en la escuela dominical, en un campamento, tu abuelita, tu tía, alguien te lo cantó. Y en el caso mío fue mi abuelita, mis abuelitas. Y aunque hoy en día las dos no están aquí, también en el lado de mi esposo tampoco, pero Lo que fue clave en nuestras familias es de que la fe empezó con las abuelitas. Y en ese entonces, imagínate, estamos hablando de ya hace 3 generaciones, ¿verdad? En ese entonces, ¿qué tenían? Tenían su voz, una copia maybe de una Biblia, un pandero, ir a la iglesia. That's it. ¿Ok? Si con eso le dieron su sazón, le dieron su sabor, le dieron cultura, le dieron espíritu, dieron gozo y todo, ¿quién soy yo? En decir, ay, no, es que yo no puedo esto, yo no puedo lo otro, y que wow, he hecho ahí mi lista y porque sí, lo hice, ¿verdad? Pero ya después de un punto llega al momento en donde, ok, ¿cuál va a ser mi decisión? ¿Me voy a sentar en mis excusas o me voy a levantar y ser un partícipe de este gran plan que Dios en su bondad nos está presentando, ¿verdad? Porque es una oportunidad. Y claro, yo sé que para no todos se les ha prestado de esa forma, ¿verdad? Porque en un entonces no, esto fue, pues no creo ni soñado para, en el caso mío, de mis abuelas, ¿verdad? Y no se prestó para poder presentárselos físicamente, pero en el caso de este libro, esto es una dedicación y una homenaje, una manera en cómo honrar el legado de fe y continuarlo de esa forma. Y es una manera única, ¿verdad? Porque, ok, en este caso es un libro infantil. Probablemente otra persona va a hacer un libro de teología, de devocional, de finanzas, ¿verdad? ¿Por qué no? ¿Por qué no? Tiene que ver millones de voces. No solo con mi voz, no es suficiente. Necesitamos más.
Sí, estoy pensando en un libro algunos libros que recientemente encontré, y realmente me ha dado como vida, me ha dado ánimo, me ha dado tanta hope, tanta fe, ¿sí? Porque estaba buscando libros que puedo yo implementar en mi práctica, como terapista y como coach para poder interwove, poner las 2 cosas en lo espiritual y lo clínico, porque sí hay una gran diferencia, y yo solita me tuve que dar cuenta por experiencia, tener una terapista que es secular y una que no, y una que es cristiana. Y realmente es muy, muy diferente.
Ya.
Entonces, cuando yo encontré esos libros, fueron como recursos, fueron cosas, que terapistas han escrito de muchas experiencias, casos con clientes que me ayudan bastante a poder ahora yo replicar eso y poder dar de eso. Es muy interesante, nunca me había puesto así a pensar y a platicar sobre un libro y el impacto de un libro. Entonces, me encanta nuestra conversación.
Ya, ya. Gracias.
Y para mis seguidores y para tus seguidores, ¿cómo es que uno comienza? Si los puedes dar un tip, ¿qué se hace para después, obviamente, buscarte a ti, tu ayuda? Where do we start?
Ya. Lo primero que yo diría es en este pensamiento, en transformar el pensamiento de, ay, es que ya hay algo así, o es que yo no puedo hacer tal cosa como la autora tal y tal. So, tenemos que cambiar la mentalidad de comparación a complemento. Porque claro, probablemente va a haber un libro muy similar. Y bueno, eso no necesariamente es algo malo, simplemente lo que quiere decir es de que hay una necesidad para ese tema. Hay una audiencia que está escuchando, que está interesado en lo que la plática, ¿verdad? Sobre ese tema. ¿Y por qué no? Tú también añadir tu voz, tu estilo, tu manera de ser, el sentir de que el Señor te dio a ti. Eso no es de que te baja a ti o que te quita de tu título o de tu experiencia, no, para nada. Hace completamente lo opuesto. Y la razón por que yo digo que se tiene que empezar de esa forma es porque la mayoría de veces, y yo estoy hablando de líderes de que están, wow, top, ¿verdad? Que están haciendo, wow, cosas increíbles. No son así líderes que están ahí sentados, que no están haciendo nada, no, pilas, que andan arriba y abajo haciendo y deshaciendo. Pero muchas veces estos mismos líderes son los que tienen pensamientos más fuertes que les entra a la mente, la duda, la inseguridad, ese, ese, ese ciclo que a veces entra, and it's hard, es difícil salir de eso, porque si ni puedes salir de eso, ¿cómo vamos a empezar con las palabras en la página, por decir, verdad? Entonces, primeramente se tiene que cambiar esa mentalidad. No, lo que yo voy a añadir es valioso, se necesita. Y no, ahorita yo no estoy interesada en fulana de tal, o que lo que dicen allá, esto y lo otro. Es como que uno se tiene que poner derechito, bien enfocado, y a veces lo más sabio es maybe no decir a, a tu mundo. Puedes contarles como maybe a una, dos, tres personas en tu círculo más íntimo, pero tampoco yo veo que muchas veces si estamos como que anunciando todo y dejando saber que ahí viene, ahí viene, ahí viene. Eso también puede ser como una distracción de sentarnos, enfocarnos, dar a luz, porque realmente estás como dando a luz como un bebé, ¿verdad? Pero una forma de libro. Y eso toma tiempo, toma como que tienes que, no necesariamente aislarte, pero sí mover, agendar, ponerlo en tu día a día, ¿verdad? Porque solito no se va a lanzar, uno también tiene que ser partícipe y tiene que dirigir, liderar en ese aspecto.
Gracias. Yo me pongo a pensar y yo hablo mucho de temas que a veces la gente no tiene, no es como cómoda en esto, discúlpame, pero es como cuando alguien está haciendo el amor y necesita intimidad y necesita hacerlo en closed doors, en puertas cerradas. Entonces, así me imagino que hacer un libro es como algo íntimo hasta con Dios mismo, de que Él te guíe, de que sea algo especial entre los dos que están como cosechando algo, ¿no? Un fruto.
Ujú.
So that's really good. I needed to hear that personally. And I agree of just letting people know way in advance. Sometimes it's just a distraction and you feel the pressure and you feel at that moment it's not even like something you're walking with God. You're just people pleasing at that point. So I
Yeah, I had heard it said, I'd seen something similar to this like a number of years back, where it's you don't invite people to a housewarming when they're putting the foundation down. It just it sounds illogical. It sounds so silly. It's like, why are we here? I'm sorry. You have construction going on. There's ni el baño está hecho, just basic things in place, right? I think that there's something to be said, and it's totally wise and great to create a runway and like anticipation. Like, there's a place for all of that. Don't get me wrong. It's not to say that you don't give little sneak peeks or that type of thing. But I think in the early stages, it's really wise to just give it breath, give it life, it breathe a little bit before you're just like letting the whole world know, because sometimes it can suck the life out of just the existence of the creation process and all of the voices. It can wipe you out, really. Like, it can really take a toll, even if it's good. Like, it could be that you're getting a lot of positive feedback, And praise God for that, because most people, they can't necessarily say that. But even in that, it could just be like, oh, okay, dang, now I got to deliver. So it's just, again, it's you're having to confront either the fear or the self doubt. So it's like you already have kind of things internally that you have to check and that you have to ensure that you go over the hump in a sense. So it's wise to have a wise counsel, a wise circle, right? Hence a book coach, an editor, or even getting yourself in the room of those that maybe have already gone before you. Maybe you do know an author in your world or somebody that's going in that direction. Get in contact with them. Like, let that be your circle, right? Like, you got to be around those that are trailblazing, that are doing the hard thing, because oftentimes it's many times we're wanting to almost receive either the affirmation or the encouragement from those that are closest to us, and that there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but oftentimes they're not birthing, they are not initiating or starting something from nothing. And so therefore it's foreign, really. It's just, that's really the best that you get. And it's not really, it's not their fault, it's not your fault, it's just you're going in a completely different trajectory. And so it's just more so out of a place of like, all right, I'm just gonna have to, I gotta be my own cheerleader first,
Yeah.
and then understand that will come in its time, in the appropriate time, right? Whether it's the book launch, whether it's when you're finally going to do the grand announcement, or any of those stages. But I think in the initial stages is being like really wise. Okay, who is going to be pivotal, who's going to be key to get me to that next level? Because I genuinely believe it's like it's that beginning stage, and then even right before the book gets launched, because it's like all of a sudden all the angst comes up, like, oh my god, this is about to happen. Again, that it's almost like the last bit of insecurity is bubbling up to the surface. But most often than not, I would say 99.9% of the time, the authors on the other side are like, oh, thank God. Like, I went through that entire process. It's like a marathon. It's like any type of big life challenge, right? But it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it, is what I would say.
Yeah, I going back to just like the changing your mindset first. I have a phrase on my mirror in my bathroom, and it says, "There's only one Carlin." Because
Mm, that's good.
when I first started launching my event online and just going after really big things with God, I would really sometimes feel like I had to push through even faster so that I can get to the place where I want to be. There's for me, there's no more, I don't really let myself like dwell in nothing that is not like of the Lord, that is not positive, like that verse in Filipenses.
Yeah.
And it's really shifted my world because I used to not think like that. Like I used to have PTSD, I used to have depression. And so to look at myself now and to constantly train my brain to not dwell in past and just sad memories or anything like that is really, it's really painful. Like I've been feeling it this week. I'm launching an event December 9th and 10th, and I can feel it. I'm reading that phrase every time I go to the bathroom, and I feel the birthing process. I feel the pain, even though I'm not dwelling it, but I know that something is happening internally that is
Right.
about to like explode.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I would even say too that it's like those are all, like, when I was a kid, I used to have terrible, like horrible growing pains in my legs, and to the point that I would like smack my leg, or just different pain medications that like my mom would help to use, or like home remedy type stuff. And remember sharing those things with my kids, and they're like, what? And to me, the comical thing is I am not a tall person. So I don't even have like at least something to show for it. Like, oh, well, that pain was worth it. So that's the funny part. But realistically, when it comes to a book, or really any type of, not even a project, but just anything that you're stepping into that is new territory, Yeah, there's a breaking right there because you are leaving behind, you're like shedding a level of your identity, and you're also taking on a new sense of identity, which is something that I work with my authors on and letting them know this is a new identity that you're putting on. Or even sometimes it's like you always had this, it's just you never recognized it within yourself. And so now beginning to function in that way, beginning to we're not over here saying, "Oh, look at me," like, "Oh my gosh." That's not the attitude that we're going to be taking on, but you have to be confident about what you are going to be presenting and sharing with the world. Like, what is the vision? What is the mission behind this book? What's the purpose? Like, why this book, right? Because if you are not even like standing strong behind it, then how are we going to be over here asking people to buy it? Because at the end of the day, it is a product. And so there's that piece as well. So there's a number of elements, but I would say again, it's 100% a worthy process to undergo because, like you said, like the transformation that takes place not only inwardly but outwardly, and like many times you create communities because of it that would have never existed, or you touch families, groups of people that you're like, I would have never been in contact with them had it not been for doing this project. Like I had a author client a number of years back where she is in the addiction space, and once her book got published, she had some colleagues of hers that they ended up opening up a rehab center in some country in Europe, and she sent me a picture that they sent her, and she's like, Elizabeth, oh my God. So in this rehab facility, it's rehabilitation. They have all kinds of resources and trainings and workshops and that type of thing for individuals that are walking through that. She said that they took her book because in her case, she wrote a curriculum and they're using it in this facility. I've never physically been to Europe, but now my material is being used in another country that I've never even stepped foot into. She's, wow, my God, thank you. And I'm like, you don't thank me, thank yourself. Like, you said yes to you. Okay. All I did was cheer you along. That's it. Like, you did the work. This is your words. Like, even we had worked through a presentation process and she's looking through it. She's, wow, this is so beautiful. It's amazing. It flows really well. I'm like, those are your words. Like you wrote that. Like sometimes we don't even recognize like the greatness because we're just like you mentioned, like we are either accustomed to the level of struggle or identify with those labels or with things from the past. And it's what are we going to do? How can we rise to the occasion? And moments like these, whether it is through writing a book or maybe it's another endeavor for those who are listening or watching this, right? And that's fine. But understanding that we have been created and designated and have the capacity to create and to give birth to beautiful things. And why not for our lives to be a reflection of that?
Especially us women, we can create in many different ways.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Yeah, I just to wrap this up, I was listening to my podcast the other day for the first time
Mm.
in my car. And I was like, wow, is that me? And I thought of like celebrities and I thought of people that make so much more money than me and how they feel when they listen to themselves on the radio. And then I thought about myself and I'm like, wow, I this is me. This is me creating impact. This is me talking to
Right.
another person and we're both collaborating. And I remember years ago, or like 4 years ago, it's even recent that I just didn't think that I was worthy. I was like, I touched rock bottom. I couldn't move from bed. I really just am amazed in what God can do when you sincerely just pour out your heart to Him in
Mhm.
all honesty.
Yeah.
It sucks. I didn't envision this for my life, this trauma, this generational trauma, and how He walks you through the healing process and then refines you and then creates something really beautiful
Yeah.
to just for his glory and for our joy, because now I'm really joyful. People look at me and some people know my story and they're like, we don't like, why are you so joyful? Like, even on social media, you look very joyful. I'm like, I can't believe this is my life. I'm free, I'm happy.
Mhm.
I'm, if this is it, if this is all I can do, that's fine. But I know that I want more, and that's okay to want more. And so it's a true honor to have met you, to have interviewed you, and
Well, likewise. Yeah, thank you.
can't wait to see what we do together, who we inspire through the
Yeah.
podcast, and yeah, the impact that we could make.
Yes, no, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to your listeners, those that are tuning in and supporting this journey, because I'm sure that as they are also coming alongside of you, they are also getting pumped and inspired as well. So thrilled to just have gotten the opportunity to join forces on this episode.
And that's it. That's a wrap, you guys. Thank you so much for being here today and for giving me the privilege to speak over your life and for you receiving the gift of growth. Remember, every step you take forward, no matter how small or big, you are truly moving forward to who you're truly meant to be. Embrace the journey, because the process of becoming is just as powerful as the destination. And in today's episode, if something sparked in you, a question, anything, a goal, an idea, hold on to that. Let it be the nudge you need to take brave steps forward toward the life that's calling you. You don't have to have it all figured out to start. You just need to take that next step. And I'll be here cheering you on every step of the way. Until next time, keep going. Hey, and do me a favor, share this episode with one friend or on social media. Let's bring more awareness to taking brave steps forward together.